Carol Burnett, the woman long cherished by American audiences for her warm smile and uniquely sharp sense of humor, has for decades been regarded as the kindest, most gentle lady in Hollywood. Yet, after spending much of her life carefully preserving a calm and graceful public image, she suddenly stunned the public. At the age of 90, in a rare conversation with Rolling Stone magazine, Carol Burnett openly revealed for the very first time the men she had never been able to endure throughout her entire life. They were not distant strangers, but the very individuals who once played crucial roles both in her professional journey and her personal relationships. Some shattered her trust through betrayal, infidelity, or bitter disputes over shared assets. Others used their influence to keep her off major shows like Saturday Night Live for decades. And there was even a younger performer who mocked her in a crude sketch, pushing Burnett into taking the matter to court in order to defend her own dignity. So who were the men who inflicted such deep emotional wounds on this legendary television icon? And among them, who was the one she could never bring herself to forgive? The most notable name was Harvey Korman, a man once considered her closest and most trusted on-screen partner, yet at the same time the very source of a fierce conflict that forced Carol to make one of the most difficult decisions of her entire career, firing him. Within the vibrant landscape of 1970s television, when every laugh meant a spike in ratings and lucrative advertising deals, the Carol Burnett Show all but dominated the medium. At the heart of the show were Carol Burnett and Harvey Korman, a duo so synchronized that audiences believed they were born to share a stage. Carol was the soul of the show, while Harvey served as the bridge through which laughter spread effortlessly to millions. However, hidden beneath the thunderous applause and explosive laughter were tensions that slowly, steadily grew. Their long-standing friendship began to crack. By 1974, when the show entered its 7th season and its ratings hit an all-time high, CBS renewed it for 3 additional seasons, and the team had just taken home their 4th Emmy. But it was precisely during this triumphant period that the rift between Burnett and Korman became unmistakably visible. Costume designer Bob Mackie once revealed that Korman had grown increasingly irritable, short-tempered, and even began avoiding Carol backstage. A quiet storm was forming, ready to erupt at any moment. Many believed Harvey Korman had started to feel overshadowed by Burnett's ever-brightening spotlight, fearing that her soaring fame was eclipsing the recognition he felt he deserved. The breaking point arrived one April afternoon at Studio 33, Television City in Los Angeles. The cast was rehearsing a segment featuring singer Petula Clark, who had just flown in from London. While filming Korman's scene, a lighting error left his face in shadow. Immediately, Korman halted the performance, threw his script onto the floor, and shouted, "All these years and no one can get it right?" The entire soundstage fell silent. Director Dave Powers tried to calm him down, but Korman continued complaining, even hinting that Carol herself didn't care about the issue. That remark cut deeply. Carol Burnett, known for her kindness and her steady, thoughtful leadership, stood up from her seat in the audience and walked straight onto the stage. Without raising her voice, she said clearly, "Harvey, I've had enough. If you can't respect everyone here, then you don't need to be here at all." The room froze. According to Bob Mackie's book, Even More Laughs, one could even hear a microphone hit the floor. Korman stared at her for a long moment before walking out. No one followed him. A camera operator later recalled Carol sitting in silence for more than half an hour, her eyes fixed on Korman's empty chair, as she softly whispered, "I didn't want things to happen this way, but he went too far." Only a few hours later, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner ran a bold headline, "Harvey Korman walks out of Carol Burnett's show in the middle of rehearsal." CBS made no comment, but rumors spread rapidly throughout Hollywood. Reporters from Variety confirmed that Burnett had endured the situation for far too long and had finally lost her patience. Over the next 3 days, the television industry buzzed nonstop. Vicki Lawrence, one of Carol's closest friends, tried calling Korman, but he remained completely silent. Carol continued filming, never once mentioning Korman's name. A crew member described her as someone who remained composed, yet was clearly exhausted. Then, on Wednesday morning, CBS received a phone call. On the other end was Harvey Korman. He whispered to the assistant, "I need to speak to Carol." When Burnett picked up, his voice trembled. "I was wrong. I want to come back." The next day, Korman showed up at the crew's morning meeting. Everyone held their breath as he apologized to the entire team and then turned toward Carol, the woman with the familiar brown hair. "I forgot why I started," he said. Carol gently smiled and walked over to embrace him. The whole studio burst into applause, but everyone who witnessed the moment understood that something between them had changed forever. Corman continued working with the Carol Burnett Show until 1977, then quietly departed. Carol stayed in touch, but their friendship never returned to what it once had been. In a 1983 interview with Entertainment Tonight, when asked about Corman, she merely smiled softly and said, "Harvey made me laugh the most, and he gave me the biggest headaches." That eruption, later remembered as the Studio 33 scandal, became one of CBS's most famous behind-the-scenes legends, a reminder of how fragile creative partnerships can be when two egos collide head-on. After the incident, Burnett grew stronger and more disciplined, but also far more cautious. She no longer allowed her emotions to influence her work the way they once had. Even so, the turbulence in her life did not end there. Behind the dazzling spotlight of the Carol Burnett Show, a program that cemented its place in television history, lay a quietly crumbling marriage. Carol Burnett and her husband, Joe Hamilton, once considered CBS's golden couple, slowly watched their vibrant, laughter-filled world sink into sadness and silence. Their story began in 1960, when Burnett was still a young actress on The Gary Moore Show. Joe Hamilton, 10 years her senior, was a seasoned producer who had worked with Steve Allen and the Colgate Comedy Hour. They met during a taping at CBS in New York. Burnett later recalled, "The way he looked at me made me feel like I truly mattered." 3 years later, they held an intimate wedding in California, surrounded by close friends and colleagues. By 1967, when the Carol Burnett Show officially debuted, Joe Hamilton served as producer, advisor, and behind-the-scenes collaborator. Over the following 4 years, they became a perfectly balanced creative team. She brought warmth, and he provided solid structure. But even brilliant success can place heavy pressure on a relationship that once seemed unshakable. Costume designer Bob Mackie remembered that by 1975, Hamilton had begun tightening his control more than before. He insisted on reviewing and approving the guest list and scripts even before Burnett saw them. In one production meeting, Hamilton bluntly suggested removing emotional segments so the show could focus solely on comedy. Burnett immediately objected, because in her view, the audience needs both emotion and laughter. That very moment marked the beginning of a widening divide between their creative partnership and their personal life. As the workload continued to mount, Hamilton became increasingly absent from home. At first, Burnett assumed it was simply due to the demands of new projects. Then the rumors began to spread. In August 1979, TV Guide hinted that a veteran producer was involved in a private relationship with a colleague from the editing department in Los Angeles. Although no names were mentioned, everyone knew exactly who it referred to. Several crew members frequently saw Hamilton dining with a young CBS editor at the Show House restaurant near the studio lot. Burnett never confronted him directly, but according to her close friend Vicki Lawrence, she was devastated when she accidentally overheard colleagues whispering about the overly intimate relationship between Joe and the young woman. The breaking point came in 1982. While reviewing contracts, Burnett's lawyer discovered that Hamilton had established Hamilton Productions in Beverly Hills and registered several side projects from the Carol Burnett Show under his own name. One of these was Mama's Family, based on a sketch Burnett herself had created, yet she received no credit for ownership. It was the final straw. According to her biography, Burnett confronted him directly in his CBS office. Trying to maintain her composure, she asked, "Do you think it's fair to turn what we built together into your personal property?" But Hamilton replied coldly, "This is business, Carol. It's not personal." And just like that, everything ended. On March 3, 1983, Burnett officially filed for divorce with the Los Angeles County Superior Court. The Los Angeles Times ran the headline, "Carol Burnett and Joe Hamilton split, behind it one of Hollywood's most complex asset divisions." Hamilton demanded full production rights, including the profits from the Carol Burnett Show and its related projects. Burnett was forced to fight to keep her own name and half of the revenue. The trial dragged on for nearly a year, Reporters from People, Variety, and USA Today camped outside the courthouse daily. Burnett tried to remain calm, while Hamilton appeared increasingly exhausted. The two barely spoke to each other. By June 1984, the court ruled that Burnett would retain the rights to the show's title, while Hamilton received 40% of the broadcast profits. When asked how she felt, Burnett simply gave a faint smile and said, "We used to be a great team until he forgot that I wasn't just a colleague." The remark immediately appeared on the cover of People magazine and echoed through countless talk shows across America. After the divorce, Burnett severed all ties with Hamilton's works. The shows he produced afterward never regained their former glory. Hamilton died of heart disease in 1991. Burnett did not attend the funeral, but she sent a bouquet of white flowers with a note that read, "Be at peace, Joe, and I will keep moving forward." The brief message carried all the unfinished emotions that had lingered between them. Years later, in an interview at the Paley Media Center, she gently shared, "Joe taught me that in this business, love is not enough. Trust matters just as much." Marlon Brando, a late-night phone call that left Burnett furious beyond measure. The third man on her list was none other than Marlon Brando. Sometimes Hollywood stories sound like unbelievable rumors, until you find out they're entirely true. One of the strangest moments of all was the singular, almost surreal encounter between Carol Burnett, the comedy queen of CBS, and Marlon Brando, who had just shaken the entire world with his role in The Godfather, 1972. The summer night in July 1972 was unusually quiet. Los Angeles seemed fast asleep, its faint light scattered along Coldwater Canyon, where Burnett lived with her two daughters. Suddenly, at 3 a.m., the phone began to ring sharply through the stillness. The housekeeper, thinking there must have been some kind of emergency from the studio, woke her immediately. Burnett answered the phone in a groggy haze, only to freeze in disbelief when she heard a deep, unmistakable voice. "Carol, this is Marlon Brando." At first she thought someone was playing a prank, but Brando mentioned that he had been watching reruns of The Carol Burnett Show on CBS, and she realized it truly was Brando on the line. She politely thanked him and hoped the call would end soon, but Brando continued talking. The conversation stretched on for more than 30 minutes. He spoke about acting, Hollywood, and how television needed more women like Burnett. His voice grew softer, slower, and his words gradually shifted into something uncomfortably personal. Burnett later recalled, "I realized I was speaking to the real Marlon Brando, not one of his characters. He was captivating, talented, but also dangerous in ways that made me uneasy." When she sensed that Brando's comments were crossing the line, she gently but firmly interrupted him. "Mr. Brando, I appreciate your kindness, but it's very late. I have to work early tomorrow." She hung up, thinking that would be the end of it. But by the next morning, Hollywood was in chaos. The Hollywood Reporter ran a bold headline, "Marlon Brando calls Carol Burnett at 3 a.m. The Los Angeles Herald-Examiner followed up with, "Brando seeks inspiration from CBS comedy queen." Gossip columnists like Luella Parsons and Rona Barrett insisted the call lasted over an hour and that Brando sounded especially enamored. CBS was forced to issue a statement confirming that the call was personal in nature. Furious, Burnett demanded that the PR team shut down the rumors immediately, but the story continued to spread. An anonymous source even claimed Brando had called again a few days later, though Burnett never picked up. According to Vicki Lawrence, Burnett felt deeply insulted and infuriated, worried the public would misinterpret what had happened. During a lunch at Musso and Frank Grill, she confided in her friend, "He crossed every boundary possible. I can't believe Marlon Brando thought a call in the middle of the night was acceptable." From that day on, Burnett avoided him entirely. At every industry event, she made certain she was never photographed anywhere near Brando. At the 1974 AFI Awards, when Brando unexpectedly appeared on the red carpet, Burnett instantly turned and walked in the opposite direction. The press claimed it was just a coincidence, but insiders knew better. From that moment forward, her monthly public relations schedule included a familiar note: "Do not attend events where Brando will be present." A former CBS employee later confirmed on Hollywood Inside Out that Burnett consistently steered clear of any ceremony involving Brando. As for Brando himself, he never issued an official statement, but those who knew him said he once joked, "Carol takes things too seriously. It was just a conversation." Instead of easing the tension, the remark only made matters worse and highlighted the arrogance that had long been associated with him. For Burnett, this was not merely a personal insult. It was a profound lesson about boundaries and trust in the entertainment industry. From that night on, she became far more cautious. A former crew member said Burnett never again accepted phone calls after midnight, not even from CBS. But the next shock she faced was far more painful. This time not a violation of her privacy, but a public humiliation in front of hundreds of Hollywood guests. The source of the incident came from Cary Grant, who openly mocked Burnett's down-to-earth comedic style. Hollywood in 1968 was a place overflowing with glamour, champagne, and inflated egos. The Carol Burnett Show had just become a phenomenon, sweeping the Emmys and turning her into one of television's biggest stars. That same year, Cary Grant, an enduring symbol of elegance from Hollywood's golden age, was honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. 2 stars, 2 generations, who should have crossed paths only with warm congratulations. But on that night at the Beverly Hilton, a single careless remark created a rift between 2 legends, one that never fully healed. The gala, held in the International Ballroom, gathered towering names: Lucille Ball, Gregory Peck, Elizabeth Taylor, and Jack Lemmon. Carol Burnett arrived radiant in a deep crimson gown designed by Bob Mackie, confident and glowing. After the ceremony, she approached Cary Grant's table with a glass of champagne, intending to congratulate him. Film critic Roger Ebert, who was present that night, wrote that the atmosphere shifted noticeably the moment Burnett stepped closer. A director seated next to Grant attempted to ease any tension by asking, "Have you seen Carol's show yet? The whole country's obsessed with it." Grant smiled. His voice was soft but laced unmistakably with sarcasm. "Oh, that show where she waves her arms around, makes silly faces, overacts. I don't understand why people enjoy that sort of thing." Grant's remark dropped into the ballroom like a stone into still water. A few guests forced awkward laughs. Others instantly fell silent. Burnett kept her smile, but her eyes changed. Without raising her voice, she responded calmly, "Maybe people prefer laughing with someone real rather than with perfection." The entire table went silent. Burnett nodded politely and walked away, leaving Grant standing frozen with a distorted smile. And of course, Hollywood never forgets moments like that. 2 days later, the Los Angeles Times ran a short entertainment piece titled "Cary Grant and Carol Burnett: A Frosty Encounter at the Beverly Hilton." Although brief, the article subtly suggested that Grant had dismissed Burnett's simple, unpretentious comedic style. The news spread quickly throughout Hollywood. Some defended Grant, claiming he was only joking, but television audiences, especially women, were outraged. CBS, the producer of The Carol Burnett Show, immediately released a short but pointed statement. Carol Burnett represents a form of comedy that is humanistic and intelligent, where laughter is born from empathy, not silliness. Polite as it was, everyone knew the message was aimed directly at Grant. Burnett remained silent, but it was Grant who escalated the tension. In an interview with Variety journalist Art Silverman, when asked about American television comedy, he replied, "I prefer more sophisticated humor, something closer to the European style. Television today tries too hard to be funny." He mentioned no names, but everyone understood he was referring to Burnett. The tabloids took it even further, claiming Grant had once told Burnett to her face that she had stripped comedy of its inherent elegance. Although no official confirmation ever surfaced, those rumors spread at lightning speed and quickly left Burnett's fans outraged. CBS reported that the volume of viewer mail received in November 1968 had doubled, most of it expressing support for Carol and defending her dignity. Her calm demeanor only made people admire her more. She did not respond to the press, nor did she speak up on any media platform. She simply continued doing her work quietly. And that season, The Carol Burnett Show reached the highest ratings in its history. She even invited her close friend, the legendary Lucille Ball, to appear in a special episode. Lucille later recalled, "Carol told me the best response was for viewers to turn on their TVs and see that we were still there." Even so, Burnett never forgot that night. When Paramount Pictures invited her to collaborate with Cary Grant on a musical in 1970, She politely declined, citing a busy schedule. A close friend revealed that behind closed doors, Burnett once said, "I will not work with someone who belittles women's laughter." Grant never apologized and never mentioned the incident again. However, in a biography of Cary Grant written by Gran, he did admit, "Carol is so smart and so strong that she sometimes made me feel insecure." Ironically, his condescension only strengthened Burnett's determination. She continued creating down-to-earth characters, housewives, maids, seamstresses, ordinary people with warm hearts. Within 3 years, she won 3 consecutive Emmy Awards, and The Carol Burnett Show was honored by TV Guide as one of the greatest programs in American television history. From that bitter experience, Burnett drew a simple but enduring truth. There is no need to argue. Let success speak for itself. Yet as her name rose to the top, her prominence unintentionally caused certain powerful men in the industry to feel threatened. One of them was Lorne Michaels. Burnett had long accused him of looking down on women and deliberately excluding her from Saturday Night Live. In the history of American television, this remains one of the most puzzling mysteries. For nearly 50 years, Carol Burnett, a trailblazer for women in comedy, was never once invited to host SNL. Given her stature, many saw this as a deliberate snub. To understand why, one must look back to 1975, when SNL premiered live from Studio 8H at Rockefeller Plaza. At that time, The Carol Burnett Show on CBS was in its 8th season and remained the most beloved variety show in America. Burnett represented heartfelt, character-driven humor. Meanwhile, Michaels was shaping a new era, sharper, bolder, heavily political. In the early days, critics such as Harriet Van Horn of the New York Post suggested Burnett as an SNL host to bridge 2 generations of comedy. What seemed like an innocent remark became the starting point of a silence that lasted decades. Behind the scenes at NBC, Burnett's name was reportedly considered for Season 2 in 1976. But Michaels was said to have vetoed the idea, arguing that her style didn't fit the spirit of the show. According to Live from New York, Back Bay Books 2002, one editor recalled Michaels calling Burnett the face of old television, insisting that he was creating something entirely new. That comment fueled speculation for years. By 1981, Washington Post journalist Tom Shales wrote that Burnett had once expressed interest in hosting, but had never received an invitation. The article caused public outrage. Hundreds of fans wrote letters to NBC questioning why America's most beloved female comedian was being ignored. A week later, NBC issued a short statement. Hosts are chosen according to the content and tone of each season. Hardly anyone believed that explanation. Burnett had never publicly demanded to host, but insiders knew she felt she had been treated with indifference. During an appearance on Larry King Live in the late 1980s, when asked about the issue, Burnett smiled and answered with light sarcasm, "Perhaps I'm not bold enough for them to notice." Those who worked with Michaels described him as fiercely protective of the SNL identity, youthful, rebellious, irreverent, the complete opposite of Burnett's warm, humanistic style. A former editor told Rolling Stone in 1990 that Michaels even rejected a major sponsor's proposal to invite Burnett for the show's 10th anniversary special, saying, "We respect her, but that's not our brand of comedy." That remark widened the gap. Over time, the relationship between them remained frozen. In 1991, at a Television Academy event in Los Angeles, both Burnett and Michaels gave speeches. Bill Carter of the New York Times described how the audience rose in thunderous applause when Burnett took the stage. Minutes later, Michaels spoke, and Burnett stayed seated, smiling faintly, her eyes fixed on the camera. The moment aired on Entertainment Tonight and was quickly dubbed the coldest look in Hollywood. The story might have faded into obscurity until 2023, when NBC produced Carol Burnett. 90 years of laughter and love to honor her career. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, when asked whether she regretted never hosting SNL, Burnett smiled and answered, "I guess they didn't need me, but I didn't need them either." The comment shattered 50 years of silence. Within a day, the hashtag #InviteCarol2SNL spread widely, with thousands urging NBC to correct what many believed should never have been allowed to last half a century. Later, During a panel at the Paley Media Center, Burnett added, "Some people don't understand that kindness has a strength of its own." Afterward, she chose to appear less frequently on modern television, protecting the timeless image she had built. Yet destiny was about to lead her toward a very different crossroads.